President Trump is urging lawmakers to confirm his pick for Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. The Senate Commerce Committee approved Ross, but the full body has yet to vote.
I would like to have my Commerce Secretary Wilbur approved because I hear he did fantastically well, but they're not quick with the pen on signing these people because we'd like to have him approved as soon as possible. So I know, and Mitch says it will be done, and it will be. They could move faster on the other side, I will say that. Could move faster. I mean, I'm meeting with the Prime Minister tomorrow, as you know, Great Britain. So I'm meeting with her tomorrow. I don't have my Commerce Secretary. They want to talk trade. So I'll have to handle it myself.
President Trump speaking there in Philadelphia. Well, Wilbur Ross would be the wealthiest member of Mr. Trump's cabinet, a group whose total wealth is estimated at more than $6 billion. In his cover story for Bloomberg Business Week, Max Abelson says Wilbur Ross could be the most powerful Commerce Secretary in recent history, and also writes, to the extent that the Trump administration is an experiment in government by and possibly for the ultra-wealthy, Ross would be its public face. Max Abelson is with me now. Max, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So a really fascinating read. You delve into the details of Wilbur Ross's business background. Explain how you think Wilbur Ross could be the most powerful Commerce Secretary in recent history.
The truth of the matter is, with all due respect to previous Commerce Secretaries, it's not like it's been the most important position. I'm not sure how many people can name, more Commerce Secretaries besides Penny Pritzker. But I think Wilbur Ross has a shot of being really one of the most important people in Trump's entire cabinet. And that's because, for one thing, he'll have Trump's ear. He and Trump have known each other since like 1990, 1991, when Wilbur Ross was actually across from him on the Trump Taj Mahal deal, which, if you remember, things were so bad for Donald Trump in 1991 when he almost faced personal bankruptcy that he could have lost control of the Trump Taj Mahal casino over in Atlantic City. But Wilbur Ross struck a deal that really kind of helped him, and they've been friends ever since. So that's one thing. But for another thing, Trump has said that trade, which of course was one of his big sort of election promises, that Wilbur Ross is going to be the man with responsibility for trade. So Wilbur is going to have a lot to live up to. So
yeah, I want to talk about trade in just a moment, but let's put up the cover again. It says Ross is pro-trade, no anti-trade. So Max, why the ambiguity there?
It's definitely ambiguous. So if you go back to how Wilbur Ross became a rich man, and by the way, there's a lot of attention, right, that Trump's team is really rich. You mentioned it's a $6 billion team. Wilbur Ross is the richest of everybody. And the reason he's rich is really has to do with steel. He was a steel magnate. He was a steel tycoon. And when you own a lot of American steel, as he did, you don't really want to have cheap steel coming into America. So he was a protectionist. He wasn't for free trade. In fact, the Bush administration put on tariffs that he advocated for. That was in around 2002, 2003. But then he became a big textiles guy. And when you want a lot of textiles, what do you like? You like sort of cheap labor from China or Vietnam, even Nicaragua. And Wilbur Ross became a huge free trade guy. It was kind of the opposite. And he started joint ventures, really sort of mocked his rivals for not realizing that, the world was round and people had to look outside of the United States. He also said, I don't understand why everyone beats up on China. What's the big deal? So you can imagine that it took sort of another reversal to end up where he is now, because, of course, Trump thinks Chinese trade is a really big deal. So it's been sort of a flip and a flop and a flip, which, is normal in business. But in politics, of course, it's, becomes more complicated.
What about the specific idea, as you say, of government for the ultra wealthy? So I guess the question is, what could that potentially mean in terms of the metrics for success for this Commerce Secretary? How do you think his success is going to be measured? What's the expectation for him?
I think there's so many questions right now. We're just a few days into living under a Trump presidency. I think that might be one of the most important questions of all. On the one hand, if he delivers on jobs and a manufacturing renaissance, he'll be a legend of the Commerce Department.
That's what Donald Trump has been saying, is that he's going to bring jobs back. Yeah.
But on the other hand, one thing we get into in the story is that in a way, this is sort of an experiment of a government run by multimillionaires and billionaires. And I'm not sure there's anyone who really knows what's going to happen. There's certainly people who worry that this could be an era of nepotism or corruption, or just, sort of an overall disregard for the poor. And we've already seen things like an infrastructure plan that Wilbur Ross was actually a part of that really sort of advocated giving tax breaks to private investors in public projects, which is the kind of thing that makes critics nervous. But of course, there are also business people who are, thrilled he's there. So you can definitely hear both sides.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me ask you this. The White House is saying that it wants a tax on imports coming in from Mexico to pay for that southern border wall. What could the implications of that be potentially?
The reason that sounds so out of the ordinary is that it is out of the ordinary. And, it's surprising because Wilbur Ross, who, as I mentioned, has done a lot of business in China, he's not the only one. Donald Trump has had products made in China, and Donald Trump also has suits made in Mexico. So I think that the optimistic view is that they don't really mean it. People are afraid that if we were to put on a tariff for Mexican products, Mexico would turn around and put on their own tariff. And what people worry about is that could lead to a trade war. People are worried about a trade war with Mexico, but also with China. Trump has talked about tariffs as high as 30, I think maybe even 40% with China. But with each passing day and as proposals keep coming out, it sure seems like something that people are going to have to start taking maybe seriously.
All right, we're watching it closely. Max Abelson, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.